What is up, my friends? Welcome to my channel. And here's an update on my portfolio. We're at $216,712.38 currently. And so I've been doing options myself on SPY, on the NASDAQ, and on Robinhood stock. I've also been buying, especially on this last dip. I bought all these different ETFs. Bought some SPY, and yeah, on the dip. So I'm thinking that I guess I'm gonna kind of mix it up here. I'm thinking about buying some ETFs that, the focus of the ETF is to pay income. I'm gonna buy some other ETFs that, they're more focused on growth. And I also have a category of ETFs that seem to actually do better on a red day. One of them is DGRO. Now, when the market was in the red on my last week, DGRO was actually in the green. And of course, currently today, as you guys can see, the market for the most part is in the green while DGRO is in the red. Now, DGRO, if you look at the long-term track record, let's take a look at that. So you guys can see that it basically goes up and to the left for the most part. When I compare this to the S&P 500, there are times when DGRO is just doesn't go down as hard as the S&P 500 or like the NASDAQ. It's a little bit more of a stable, I guess, ETF, less volatile. So on days when the S&P 500 is in the red, for the most part, this ETF is in the green, as far as I've noticed. Another ETF that is similar is a low volatility ETF, which is SPLV. So if we look at that one, it's right here. So as you guys can see, for the most part, the market is completely in the green today, but this ETF is in the red. It's a low volatility ETF. Both of these ETFs also pay monthly dividends, but they don't use options to produce that monthly income, which is another thing that I was looking into. ETFs that pay monthly dividends but don't use options to produce that income. So this ETF also does well when the S&P 500 is in the red. For the most part, this ETF basically moves sideways if we look at the 1 year. But in the long term, it does go up and to the left. So not too bad on performance. But for the most part, if you compare this to the S&P 500, this looks like it just basically moves in a sideways direction. There is some appreciation, and of course it pays a small monthly dividend. And the reason why I am also buying this ETF is because on red days, or like last week when the entire market was in the red, this was not in the red. This ETF was in the green. If we look here at the past week, this is the past week of this ETF, low volatility Invesco S&P 500 ETF. So as you guys can see here, it's basically moving sideways all the past week. Now, if we compare this to the S&P 500, we'll see that the S&P 500 doesn't look the same. So if we go for the week, right in this area here is where it was dropping down, while SPLV was basically moving sideways right there. So it kind of offsets this downside in the S&P 500. So I have a DGRO, SPLV, and SPHD, which also is a low volatility play. So let me look for that here through this list. It is, I guess it's somewhere up here, SPHD, right here. This ETF also pays a monthly dividend, but it doesn't use options to produce that income. It just pays the dividends because it's basically a dividend paying ETF, and it's low volatility as well. So if we look at the past week on this, as you guys can see here, while the S&P 500 was trending down, this actually went up. It trended up. So it kind of does the opposite of what the S&P 500 does, but not extremely, not in an extreme manner, like an inverse ETF, for example. An inverse ETF would obviously do the inverse. It's extreme. This is not extreme. This is just low volatility, just to kind of stabilize things in my portfolio and allow me to see something that's green while everything else is in the red. So I think it's good to have, if you're holding various ETFs like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, you may want to have an ETF like this or a few ETFs like this that actually go green on a red day when the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ go into the red. So, and I've also been buying just a whole bunch of different ETFs. Some of them, of course, are the ones that pay monthly dividends using options, and some of them are not. And some of them pay a quarterly dividend because I actually want to get some growth. So this ETF right here, SPMO, which I wish I would have bought more of on this most recent dip, is doing very well. This only pays a quarterly dividend, but if we look at the long-term track record, as you guys can see here, it's moving up into the left here, to the right, sorry. And so it's been increasing in value. And so this is primarily focused on growth. And so since I get paid every week, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be buying all these different ETFs. I also bought the boosted versions of the NEOS ETFs. The XSPI boosted version, NEOS boosted S&P 500 high income ETF. So I bought this ETF and it has already paid a dividend. I think I showed you guys that before, right here, 70 cents per share, I guess. So I only got paid for one share because I only owned one share. Since then, of course, I bought more shares, and I'm probably going to be buying more slowly. Currently, I own 4 shares. And I'm not going to buy a whole bunch of shares currently because this thing is still 100% margin maintenance. So I don't want to buy a whole lot of shares of this right now because of that. I will be buying, a share here and there of XSPI. I also bought the NASDAQ version, which is XQQI, I believe. So I think they offset the payment as well, where it doesn't pay on the same day as SPI, and it doesn't pay on the same day as QQQI. So that's another good thing, I guess. Also, I bought the Lift from Tap Alpha. So these have already changed their margin maintenance. According to this is 35% margin maintenance right now. So I will be buying more of this. It does actually pay more than TDAQ, which is TDAQ, which is the NASDAQ version of this ETF. This is also based on that ETF. TDAQ, which is from Tap Alpha. And this is the leveraged version of that ETF, or the Lift series, or whatever they call it. So it's got a little bit of leverage. And it's not even like, it's not 2x leverage. It's less than 2x leverage. It's like about 0.30x leverage. So it's not even one full point of leverage. So it's not really extremely leveraged. So I was hoping for a less margin maintenance on this, but it's at 35. So, not bad, I guess. I was hoping the margin maintenance was going to be like 25 or something, because it's not like it's not extreme leverage. It's not a 2x or a 3x or something greater than that. Here's the other one that it's based on the S&P 500, which is T-SPI, also from Tap Alpha. This is the Lift version that's got a little bit of leverage. And this is also now 35% margin maintenance, I believe. Yeah, 35%. And this here paid also a dividend right here of 10 cents. So this is when I only owned one share. So it does pay a little bit more than XSPI. And this pays on a weekly basis. So basically this is paying 10 cents per week. The other one, the NASDAQ one, that is also leveraged, that one is paying 11 cents per week. So it pays a little bit more than this. And it also pays a little bit more than the two original ones that they came out with from the very beginning, which is XSPI and TDAC from Tap Alpha. So I'm going to be purchasing these ETFs with my income from my job and just start building up a portfolio of all kinds of different ETFs that have different purposes. So some that pay monthly dividends that use options to produce that income. Others that also pay monthly dividends, but they don't use options to produce income, and they're less volatile. So it kind of stabilizes the ride here. And of course, these leveraged ETFs, especially the ones from NEOS, because those pay even more than the Tap Alpha leveraged versions. But of course, they have a little bit more leverage. I believe those are a 0.50x leverage. So they're not extremely leveraged. They're not a 2% leverage, or they're not a 2x or a 3x or a 5x. They're just a 0.50x, I guess. So it's not extremely leveraged. And we'll see. Who knows? Maybe those will be, it'd be great if those turn out to be 25% margin maintenance. Now, the reason for that is that I'm interested in that is because of my buying power. So if it's only 25% margin maintenance, then it only uses 25% of my actual money. That means that the other 75% is still left in buying power. So I'd still be able to use 75% of that to buy something else. And of course, I'm still selling covered calls on the S&P 500 and on the NASDAQ. And it looks like this may be called away from me. So these shares may be called away from me probably during this week, this 100 shares, because I sold a call. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing so far. If we look at the past week here, this is that dip that we went through. So, it was kind of harsh. It's kind of bad. Dropped down all the way down to $208,000. But now the market seems to be recovering quite well. Back up to 216,000. And, probably, I guess it's going to continue to recover from here. And so sometime this week, I'll get paid and I will spread that money out amongst all these different ETFs that pay monthly dividends, some that don't pay monthly dividends, some that pay on a quarterly basis, some that are more focused on growth, some that are more focused on low volatility. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I really would appreciate it. If you guys got any comments or questions, or if you don't agree with my activities here or what I'm doing exactly, please let me know in the comments down below. If you guys got any other ideas about any other ETFs that would be helpful to my portfolio, I really would appreciate it if you mentioned any other ETF that, pays a monthly dividend, that maybe doesn't use options, or that would stabilize this ride a little bit better. Please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much. You guys have a great one. God bless. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye.